Welcome to the Bible Quiz and Trivia channel. Today, we're testing your knowledge with 30 tough questions all about the life of Joseph, from his dreams to his rise in Egypt. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like this video to support our content. After the quiz, share your score in the comments. We love seeing how well you do. Are you ready? Let's get started. Question 1. What was the specific dream Joseph had that angered his brothers? A. Sun, moon, and 11 stars bowing to him. B. Sheaves of grain bowing to one sheaf. C. A vine producing grapes. D. A ladder reaching to heaven. Answer: A. Sun, moon, and 11 stars bowing to him. Joseph dreamed of the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowing to him, which he naively shared with his family, further fueling the jealousy and anger of his brothers. This dream is detailed in Genesis 37-9, where Joseph says, "Then he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, 'Behold, I have dreamed another dream. And behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me.'" Question 2. How many pieces of silver was Joseph sold for by his brothers? A. 20 pieces of silver. B. 30 pieces of silver. C. 50 pieces of silver. D. 15 pieces of silver. Answer: A. 20 pieces of silver. Joseph was sold by his brothers for 20 pieces of silver to the Ishmaelites, as stated in Genesis 37:28. Then Midianite traders passed by. So the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. Question 3. What was the name of the merchant group that bought Joseph from his brothers? A. Midianites. B. Egyptians. C. Canaanites. D. Philistines. Answer: A. Midianites. The Midianites were the merchant group who purchased Joseph from his brothers. This group played a critical role in Joseph's journey to Egypt, as recorded in Genesis 37:36. Meanwhile, the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard. Question 4. Who was the Egyptian official that Joseph was sold to? A. Pharaoh. B. Potiphar. C. Asenath. D. The baker. Answer: B. Potiphar. Joseph was sold to Potiphar, who was the captain of the guard for Pharaoh in Egypt. Genesis 39:1 states, "Now Joseph had been brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, an Egyptian, had bought him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him down there." Question 5. What was Joseph accused of by Potiphar's wife, leading to his imprisonment? A. Stealing. B. Lying. C. Attempting to flee. D. Attempting to seduce her. Answer: D. Attempting to seduce her. Potiphar's wife falsely accused Joseph of trying to seduce her, which led to his imprisonment. This accusation is documented in Genesis 39:12-14, where she presents Joseph's garment as evidence, claiming he fled after she cried out. Question 6. What ability did Joseph display that gained him favor in the prison? A. Strength. B. Dream interpretation. C. Storytelling. D. Musical talent. Answer: B. Dream interpretation. Joseph's ability to interpret dreams gained him favor not only in the prison but also later with Pharaoh. Genesis 40:8-23 details how Joseph interpreted the dreams of the Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker, which ultimately led to his release and rise to power. Question 7. What were the two specific dreams of Pharaoh's officials that Joseph interpreted in prison? A. 7 thin cows and 7 fat cows. B. A vine with 3 branches and a basket of bread. C. Sun and moon bowing. D. 7 thin ears of grain and 7 fat ears. Answer: B. A vine with 3 branches and a basket of bread. The dreams interpreted by Joseph in prison were about a vine with 3 branches that the cupbearer saw and a basket of bread that the baker saw. These interpretations are recorded in Genesis 40 to 9:18, where the vine symbolized the cupbearer's restoration to his position, and the basket indicated the baker's impending execution. Question 8. What did the cupbearer forget to do after being restored to his position, as he had promised Joseph? A. Give Joseph money. B. Recommend Joseph to Pharaoh. C. Visit Joseph in prison. D. Bring Joseph's family to Egypt. Answer B. Recommend Joseph to Pharaoh. After being restored to his position, the cupbearer forgot to mention Joseph to Pharaoh, leaving Joseph in prison for 2 more years. Genesis 40:23 notes, "Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him." Question 9. How many years of plenty did Joseph predict for Egypt through Pharaoh's dreams? A. 7 years. B. 10 years. C. 12 years. D. 5 years. Answer A. 7 years. Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dreams to predict 7 years of plenty for Egypt, followed by 7 years of famine. This prediction is found in Genesis 41:29. Behold, there are 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. Question 10. How many years of famine did Joseph predict would follow the years of plenty in Egypt? A. 7 years. B. 10 years. C. 5 years. D. 3 years. Answer A. 7 years. Following the 7 years of plenty, Joseph predicted 7 years of famine. This period of famine was critical in Joseph's story and Egypt's history, as it led to his family's relocation to Egypt. Genesis 41:30 states, "But after them there will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine will consume the land." Question 11. What position was Joseph given by Pharaoh after interpreting his dreams? A. Chief baker. B. Governor. C. Chief cupbearer. D. Chief priest. Answer B. Governor. Pharaoh appointed Joseph as the governor over Egypt, second only to himself, due to his wisdom and the accuracy of his dream interpretations. Genesis 41:41-43 elaborates on his appointment and the authority he was granted to oversee the land of Egypt. Question 12. What was Joseph's Egyptian name given by Pharaoh? A. Zaphanath-Paneah. B. Potiphar. C. Asenath. D. Hapi. Answer A. Zaphanath-Paneah. Pharaoh gave Joseph the Egyptian name Zaphanath-Paneah, which is associated with the role he was to play in Egypt's governance. Genesis 41:45 states, Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphanath-Paneah. Question 13. Who was Joseph's Egyptian wife? A. Asenath. B. Zuleika. C. Dinah. D. Tamar. Answer A. Asenath. Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, was given to Joseph as his wife by Pharaoh. Her role is briefly mentioned in Genesis 41:45, which also notes her father's position and her contributions to Joseph's family. Question 14. Name the 2 sons of Joseph and their meanings. A. Manasseh, forgetting, and Ephraim, fruitful. B. Benjamin, son of the right hand, and Dan, judge. C. Reuben, C. A son, and Simeon, herd. D. Judah, praise, and Levi, joined. Answer A. Manasseh, forgetting, and Ephraim, fruitful. Joseph named his first son Manasseh, meaning God has made me forget all my trouble and all my father's household. His second son he named Ephraim, meaning God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. These names and their meanings are detailed in Genesis 41, 51, 52. Question 15. What was the test Joseph put his brothers through when they came to Egypt for grain? A. Asking them to bring Benjamin to Egypt. B. Accusing them of being spies. C. Demanding a ransom. D. Forcing them to leave one brother behind. Answer B. Accusing them of being spies. When his brothers came to Egypt to buy grain, Joseph tested them by accusing them of being spies. This initial accusation and the subsequent tests were part of Joseph's strategy to determine their characters and any changes since they sold him into slavery. Genesis 42-9 records, Joseph remembered the dreams he had about them and said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see where our land is unprotected." Question 16. Which brother stayed behind in Egypt as a pledge while the others returned to Canaan to bring back Benjamin? A. Reuben. B. Judah. C. Simeon. D. Levi. Answer C. Simeon. Joseph kept Simeon as a hostage until the brothers returned with Benjamin to prove their honesty. This detail is mentioned in Genesis 42:24. He turned away from them and began to weep, but then came back and spoke to them again. He had Simeon taken from them and bound before their eyes. Question 17. What item did Joseph plant in Benjamin's sack to accuse him of theft? A. A golden cup. B. A silver plate. C. A money pouch. D. A golden idol. Answer A. A golden cup. Joseph instructed his servant to place a silver cup in Benjamin's sack as a test. When the cup was found, it provided the pretext for Joseph to demand Benjamin stay in Egypt as a slave. Genesis 44:2 states, "Put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest and his grain money." He used this as a means to bring his brothers back to him. Question 18. What was Judah's offer to Joseph to save Benjamin from slavery? A. To pay double the price of the grain. B. To become a slave instead of Benjamin. C. To reveal their true identity. D. To give up their claim to their father's inheritance. Answer B. To become a slave instead of Benjamin. Judah offered himself as a slave to Joseph in place of Benjamin, showcasing his transformation from the brother who suggested selling Joseph into slavery. Genesis 44:33 states, "Now therefore please let your servant remain instead of the boy as a servant to my Lord, and let the boy go back with his brothers." Question 19. How did Joseph finally reveal his identity to his brothers? A. By showing them his multicolored coat. B. Through an interpreter. C. By telling them directly without anyone else present. D. By performing a miracle. Answer C. By telling them directly without anyone else present. Joseph revealed his identity to his brothers in a private moment, breaking down in tears and speaking directly to them. Genesis 45:1 says, "Then Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendants, and he cried out, 'Have everyone leave my presence.' So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers." Question 20. What was Jacob's reaction when he learned that Joseph was still alive? A. He fainted. B. He wept for joy. C. He did not believe them until he saw the carts Joseph sent. D. He immediately set off to see him. Answer C. He did not believe them until he saw the carts Joseph sent. Jacob was initially incredulous at the news of Joseph being alive until he saw the carts and goods sent by Joseph to transport him to Egypt. Genesis 45:26-27 states, "They told him, 'Joseph is still alive. In fact, he is ruler of all Egypt.' Jacob was stunned. He did not believe them. But when they told him everything Joseph had said to them, and when he saw the carts Joseph had sent to carry him back, the spirit of their father Jacob revived." Question 21. In what region of Egypt did Joseph's family settle? A. Cairo. B. Goshen. C. Thebes. D. Memphis. Answer B. Goshen. Joseph's family settled in the region of Goshen, which was ideal for grazing their flocks and herds. Genesis 45:10 states, "You shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me, you and your children and your children's children, and your flocks, your herds, and all that you have." Question 22. What was Jacob's blessing to Joseph's two sons? A. He blessed them equally with leadership. B. He gave them each a portion of land. C. He crossed his arms and gave the younger the greater blessing. D. He promised them freedom from slavery. Answer C. He crossed his arms and gave the younger the greater blessing. Jacob crossed his arms and gave Ephraim, the younger son, a greater blessing than Manasseh, the elder. This act is recorded in Genesis 48:14. Israel stretched out his right hand and laid him on Ephraim's head, though he was the younger, and crossing his arms, he put his left hand on Manasseh's head, even though Manasseh was the firstborn. Question 23. What prophecy did Jacob give about Joseph's future generations during his blessings? A. They would be as numerous as the stars. B. They would be rulers over their brothers. C. They would be a fruitful vine by a spring. D. They would return to Canaan. Answer C. They would be a fruitful vine by a spring. Jacob's blessing to Joseph included a prophecy that his descendants would be prosperous and multiply. Genesis 49:22 states, "Joseph is a fruitful vine near a spring, whose branches climb over a wall." Question 24. What did Joseph promise his brothers about God's future plans for them? A. That they would become wealthy in Egypt. B. That God would lead them back to Canaan. C. That they would suffer in Egypt. D. That they would become leaders in Egypt. Answer B. That God would lead them back to Canaan. Joseph reassured his brothers of God's plan to lead them out of Egypt and back to the land promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Genesis 50:24 states, "Joseph said to his brothers, I am about to die, but God will surely come to your aid and take you up out of this land to the land he promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." Question 25. How did Joseph ensure the survival of Egypt during the famine? A. By building granaries. B. By negotiating with other countries. C. By rationing existing food supplies. D. By instituting a 7-year crop rotation plan. Answer A. By building granaries. Joseph ensured Egypt's survival during the famine by storing surplus grain during the 7 years of plenty and then rationing it during the famine years. Genesis 41:48-49 describes how he gathered up all the food of the 7 years of plenty that occurred in Egypt and stored it in the cities. Question 26. What were Joseph's instructions regarding his bones? A. That they be buried immediately in Canaan. B. That they be kept in Egypt. C. That they be carried out of Egypt when Israel left. D. That they be placed in a pyramid. Answer C. That they be carried out of Egypt when Israel left. Joseph instructed that his bones be carried out of Egypt and buried in the promised land when the Israelites left Egypt. Genesis 50:25 states, Joseph made the sons of Israel swear an oath and said, God will surely come to your aid, and then you must carry my bones up from this place. Question 27. At what age did Joseph die? A. 110 years. B. 120 years. C. 100 years. D. 130 years. Answer A. 110 years. Joseph died at the age of 110. Genesis 50:26 states, So Joseph died at the age of 110. After they embalmed him, he was placed in a coffin in Egypt. Question 28. How did Joseph's brothers seek forgiveness for their betrayal after Jacob's death? A. They offered themselves as slaves. B. They left Egypt. C. They offered livestock as a sacrifice. D. They sent a message through a mediator. Answer A. They offered themselves as slaves. After Jacob's death, Joseph's brothers feared retribution and offered themselves as slaves to Joseph as atonement for their past betrayal. Genesis 50:18 states, "His brothers then came and threw themselves down before him. 'We are your slaves,' they said." Question 29. What is the significance of Joseph's forgiveness toward his brothers in biblical theology? A. It exemplifies divine providence. B. It demonstrates the power of wealth. C. It underscores the importance of family honor. D. It shows the effectiveness of political power. Answer A. It exemplifies divine providence. Joseph's forgiveness of his brothers is a significant theological theme, illustrating divine providence and the ability to see God's hand in life's events. Joseph himself articulates this in Genesis 50:20. "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Question 30. What parallels exist between Joseph's life and the later life of Moses in Egypt? A. Both were adopted by Egyptian families. B. Both were leaders who saved their people. C. Both returned to their homeland. D. Both had confrontations with Pharaoh. Answer B. Both were leaders who saved their people. Both Joseph and Moses played pivotal roles as leaders who saved their people during times of great peril, Joseph from famine and Moses from slavery. This parallel is often discussed in theological studies to highlight the deliverance themes that are central to the narrative of the Hebrew Bible.